Welcome to the Knockout Zone, the place where boxing is the language we speak.
The Knockout Zone.
Today I want to talk about the big fight that is coming. It's an imminent fight that everybody talks about these days, and it's a fight between Terrence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez. It's interesting to compare these two. The only thing everybody is concerned about is the kind of catch weight they'll be fighting at. We know that naturally Terrence Crawford started fighting as a lightweight and he came up all the way up to junior middleweight. Meanwhile, Canelo Alvarez started as a welterweight and he's fought his way all the way up to light heavyweight. So we do not know what kind of catch weight they'll be fighting at. And that on itself proves to be disadvantageous to both boxers in the sense that if Terrence Crawford puts more weight, that will render him slower than he naturally is in his natural weight. Meanwhile, Canelo Alvarez, if he goes down the weight, then he will lose the sting in his punches. Now, it's interesting to compare how they go at each other in the ring. Starting with taking punches, I have seen Canelo Alvarez taking hard punches, and he has a very strong jaw. He takes punches so well. Meanwhile, Terrence Crawford, I've never seen him taking a good punch. So I don't know how he will react in case he is caught by a punch from someone who is such a big puncher like Canelo Alvarez. At the same time, it could be that Canelo Alvarez has never had to receive a punch from someone like Terrence Crawford, who is the greatest pound for pound fighter these days. Now, let's talk about speed. When it comes to hand speed, they both have quick hands. But when it comes to footwork, I think Terrence will be able to outmaneuver Canelo because Canelo is kind of slow in his movement. He was a little bit faster when he was still fighting in the lighter weight division when he fought against Floyd Mayweather. But as he went up the division, I think he started becoming a little bit slower. Coming to their boxing record, when it comes to Terrence Crawford, I do not think that he would want to gamble with his good record of being undefeated up to this moment. So to him, that should be a motivating factor. Meanwhile, Canelo Alvarez, on the other hand, he has lost some fights, but nonetheless, I do not believe that he would want to lose a fight of this magnitude because this fight is all about reputation to them and is all about legacy. Therefore, both of them, I believe they will be defending their legacy when it comes to this fight. Now, let us consider their weaknesses. I know that they are excellent fighters, both of them, but when you study them carefully, you do find some weaknesses here and there. Starting with Terrence Crawford, he has always been successful in attacking and knocking out opponents and mixing punches with his opponents. But meanwhile, doing that, I have noticed that he does it with an open face, which could be dangerous if he has someone in front of him who is very fast and who is focused. I have seen him getting away with mixing punches dangerously with other fighters, and I don't know if he has the strategy to defend himself whenever the counter comes forward. And if he cannot defend himself in the mix, then he will have a big problem because in this instance, he is up against someone who is a dangerous puncher. Meanwhile, Canelo Alvarez, his weakness is when he is hit by punches, he becomes stationary. And after that, he loses his focus and he loses his punches on the left hand mainly, and he begins to rely on his right hook, and that is the only punch that he uses mainly whenever he loses focus. So if Terrence Crawford will be able to defend himself against Canelo's punches, and if he can be able to catch Canelo with a variety of punches, that will reduce Canelo from being someone who punches with his both hands to someone that relies on only the right hook. And if he can concentrate on defending himself on Canelo's right hook, then he will be able to carry the fight throughout and possibly win the fight. All what I'm saying here is whenever Canelo is being attacked, and he comes out of the corner, he tends to lose sting in his punches. So Terrence Crawford will have to capitalize on that. Now, when it comes to staying power, Terrence Crawford, I believe that he is capable of going the distance without showing any signs of fatigue. And he is also capable of finishing the fight even during the late rounds. So the way he fights from beginning to end is the same, which means he has good staying power. Meanwhile, Canelo Alvarez, on the other hand, it doesn't seem to have the staying power, because towards the end, towards the later rounds, he does seem to show signs of fatigue and he slows down a little bit. So that will give Terrence Crawford an edge in the sense that if the fight goes a long distance, then he still has power to attack and possibly to have a knockout. So I can say in the early rounds, Terrence Crawford will have to be very careful, because during the earlier rounds, Canelo is always dangerous and he throws all kinds of heavy punches. So if Terrence Crawford could avoid those heavy punches and drag the fight towards the later rounds, then Canelo's stamina will deteriorate. And I believe that if at that point Terrence Crawford catches him with punches, his defense will crumble. So in a nutshell, it's difficult to say who wins this fight, but it will mainly depend on how they handle themselves and on how prepared they are. And when it comes to winning on points, I believe that Terrence Crawford will have it because of his quick hand speed as well as his footwork. Meanwhile, at the same time, he carries a big punch, enough to win the fight by way of knockout or technical knockout. And I have seen Crawford turning the tables around on fights that I thought he wouldn't be able to pull through. If you could look back at his fight against Errol Spence, I didn't expect him to fight like that against such a good fighter. Therefore, he has a chance of winning this fight. And coming to Canelo Alvarez, his chance of winning the fight is only by way of knockout, because he carries a big punch. Therefore, if he can be able to land those big punches, especially during the early rounds, I believe that he will be able to knock Terrence Crawford out. But if Terrence would be able to avoid those punches, that will limit the chances of Canelo Alvarez winning the fight by way of knockout. And when it comes to winning on points, I do not see Canelo Alvarez winning the fight on points because of his slow movement, which will limit his chances of throwing a number of punches that the judges would be looking for. Therefore, at the end of the day, like it has always been said, the best man will win this fight.